Hello again. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where I speak wisdom into your life. And I'm really excited to talk about my idea for today because it's kind of been a realization of mine just in the last couple of days of how I have been able to adopt this identity. So I kind of alluded to this idea of like your beliefs and your values and your identity and said that maybe I would talk a little bit about it. And here I am talking a little bit about it. And I want to share what I think is the most important identity to choose to adopt and kind of why that is and how I've been able to do that. So I think, and this is not even necessarily just my idea. In fact, it's definitely not just my idea because one of the podcasts that I listened to by Tom Bilyeu, he talks about this a lot, that this is his identity. And when he articulated that, I went, oh, I have that identity. How did I get that? And so he has specifically chosen to take on the identity of the learner, someone who learns things. And this is a really powerful way to get yourself away from the fear of failure, away from being afraid to take risks. Because when you are someone who builds their self-worth and their self-value on your capacity to learn, now failures are just a way for you to gather data and information. They don't say anything about your value as a person or your character or anything like that. This is just something that you tried and you're gathering some information about why it didn't work because you are someone who learns. It also really frees you up from being locked into the kind of political side of opinions. Like, so you know how sometimes when you are part of a group, you identify as being part of a group, they have a shared set of values and beliefs. And if you identify really hard with that group and the beliefs shift, sometimes that's a hard thing to reconcile within yourself. So the American political system right now is, it was kind of like, here's a group and here's a group, and it's going like this more and more and more and more. And I can only imagine that there are quite a number of people who are in group A over here who are like, wait a second, I don't actually believe all of those things. But that's my group. Do I believe that? Like, I don't understand. Oh, this reminds me of this is such a great example. I was listening to an ex white supremacist. So he's someone that got involved into a white supremacy gang and escaped from it, recovered from being part of it, and then was sharing his story. And he told this little snippet about it where he said, it took 2 or 3 years before I realized I hated insert minority group here. And I think that's really interesting because he obviously was looking for a sense of community, found belonging among this group of people, and because he identified with this group, adopted their beliefs, even though he didn't realize he hated these people. Well, because he probably didn't originally, right? That was the belief system of the group, but then he bought into it because he identified with being part of the group. And so what being a learner does is it allows you to try on beliefs so long as they make sense to you. And then when you get more information, you have capacity to change. That like saving face. You don't have to worry about being locked in to your past self and what you have said before, what's been immortalized on the internet. That's actually been one of my fears and limiting beliefs and reasons to not go on YouTube. I didn't want to immortalize my past self and my past beliefs. I didn't want someone to see something that I said 10 years ago and attribute that to my like immediate self or future self. Like that has been something that's been holding me back. And now that I have kind of put together the fact that I'm a learner and I identify with that, and learners are allowed to change their opinion because they're learning, well, suddenly now I'm free to share what I'm learning with people on the internet. And it's been a really liberating experience to be able to adopt that kind of identity. So I challenge you to identify, to see how you identify yourself. And if it's not a learner, How could you become a learner? What are the behaviors that learners do? Are you a student? What's another word that kind of makes sense so that you can free yourself up from some of these like locked in things that can make people feel trapped and maybe not even recognize it and not understand why they're so uncomfortable and feeling so lost as the world gets polarized. The other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about today was how I came about this identity of being a learner. And it wasn't just because Tom Bilyeu said it and I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Although, yes and yes, it was more a recognition that I had already adopted that label for myself. And so I was thinking about that. And one of the things that I got really excited about when I was in school, like elementary school and not middle school, high school, which is probably going to seem really silly to a lot of people. But I learned, about averages, right? So the average, the people above the average, there are people below the average, and then together they make the average. Yes, that's how math works. And I wanted to sort of protect myself from getting like a really big head and a really big ego. And I didn't want to seem full of myself and like a know-it-all. I used to, when I was really little, I was a know-it-all, and like nobody likes a know-it-all. So I adopted this identity of being average as my default, my like protective mechanism was like, no, I'm just average, I'm just gonna be average. And then a second part of me got really excited about being like, you know what? I'm gonna just always be above average. And so from the time I was probably like 13 or 14, it was my mission to become above average at everything. I just wanted to always be above average. And what that has done for me is it has allowed me to acquire skills and stack skills and really learn how to learn. And so now new things come really easily to me because I can just add them to like the basket of things that I already know because I've had this kind of aggressive, I want to be above average at whatever comes across. So I won't dive into too much about that because, no one wants to just listen to me. Yammer on incessantly. But I think I will dive into that in a future video because stacking skills, I think, is a really important skill to develop. So I'm a learner. Learners are great. Become a learner, and it will free you up from a lot of things that are holding us back. Okay, take care. Bye.